Imagine, imagine, if you will, being desperately ill.
Oh, that is a rough scenario.
Right. Your body's just burning with this uncontrollable fever. Your throat feels like absolute sandpaper cracking and dry. And you are begging for just one single drop of water to cool the fire inside you.
But there's a catch, right?
A huge one. The only water you have in your entire house smells like rotting death. It is visibly foul, putrid, and just completely undrinkable.
Ah, terrifying.
Now imagine that just a short walk away, right outside your door, there is a deep well overflowing with clean, cool, life-saving water.
But you can't touch it.
Exactly. You can't touch it. It is heavily guarded by people who would rather beat you to a pulp, perhaps even kill you, than let you take a single sip to save your life.
You know, it really forces you to confront a level of helplessness that is, it's almost impossible to fathom. When the basic elements of survival are locked behind these invisible, impenetrable walls, the psychological terror is just as bad as the physical thirst.
That terrifying scenario is exactly what we're exploring today. I want to warmly welcome you to another deep dive for the Simplified Summary YouTube channel.
We are so grateful you've chosen to spend your time with us today.
We really are. And before we unpack the incredible literature we have lined up, just a quick reminder for you. If you are finding value in these deep dives, please take a second to hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and drop your thoughts in the comment section.
Your engagement directly supports the channel's mission of making profound stories accessible.
It really does. And your valuable feedback guides the literature we choose to explore together.
It is always fascinating to see what you, the listener, pull from these narratives, because today's mission is, well, it's particularly layered.
Oh, definitely.
We are focusing exclusively on Munshi Premchand's classic Hindi short story, Thakurs, straight from the celebrated Mansarovar collection.
Such a powerful piece.
It really is. It's widely considered a masterclass in blending unbearable suspense with a really biting social commentary. We're going to look at the protagonist's desperate situation, analyze the stark social divides, and then walk through this heart-pounding nighttime heist for a simple bucket of water.
Okay, let's unpack this. We open on a scene that is claustrophobic and, frankly, incredibly bleak. We meet a man named Jokhu.
Right, and he is severely ill.
Incapacitated by this sickness. And his wife, Gangi, is tending to him. Jokhu is suffering from this devastating thirst. He reaches for his lota, which is just a small, everyday brass water pot, and he brings it up to his mouth to finally get some relief.
But he doesn't drink it.
No. The moment it gets close to his face, he recoils. The smell is unbearable. Gangi realizes almost immediately that an animal must have fallen into their well and died, completely contaminating their only water supply.
That realization establishes the agonizing central dilemma right out of the gate. I mean, Jokhu is utterly parched. He's essentially begging for relief, but Gangi adamantly refuses to let him drink.
She knows it's toxic.
She intuitively understands that consuming this putrid water is going to make his severe sickness so much worse, possibly fatal. But what's really fascinating here is a specific detail the source text points out regarding her perspective.
What's that?
Gangi knows the water is bad, but she lacks the basic scientific knowledge that she could simply boil it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she doesn't know she could boil it to purify it and make it safe for him to drink.
That detail really changes the complexion of their desperation, doesn't it? It highlights a severe lack of basic resources and educational access. They are trapped not just by circumstance, but by an imposed ignorance.
Absolutely.
Because as a modern reader, you immediately think, well, if your well has a dead animal in it, just walk down the street to the neighbor's well. Borrow a bucket.
Right, a simple solution.
But in this village, that simple act of neighborly borrowing is completely off the table. Why not just go to another well?
Because it is a profound impossibility. The village is fractured by these rigid, insurmountable social hierarchies. When Jokhu realizes they cannot drink from their own well, he breaks down the bitter reality of their situation for Gangi.
What does he tell her?
He explains that there are two other functioning wells in the village. One belongs to the Thakur, a powerful local landlord, and the other belongs to the Sahu, a wealthy moneylender. Both of these men belong to the upper castes.
And Jokhu and Gangi?
They belong to a marginalized lower caste. They are entirely excluded from accessing those resources. The socioeconomic monopoly is absolute.
Wait, help me understand the mechanics of this enforcement. I mean, are there guards posted around the clock? If a man is literally dying of thirst in his own home, What is preventing Gangi from just walking up in the middle of the day and begging for a single pot of water?
You'd think common decency would play a part.
Surely basic human empathy kicks in at some point, right?
The source material is brutally clear on this point through Jokhu's dialogue. He tells Gangi that if they were actively dying at their doorstep, no one from those privileged groups would even come over to peek at them.
Yeah, it is heartbreaking.
They are considered so low on the social ladder that their literal deaths would not warrant a passing glance. Jokhu predicts, with this terrifying lived-in accuracy, the exact sequence of events if they dared to approach those clean wells.
He knows exactly what would happen.
Exactly. The Brahmins would hurl spiritual curses at them, the Thakur would physically assault them, beating them mercilessly with a stick, and the Sahu would use the opportunity to financially exploit them, demanding an extortionate return for a single drop.
It is a complete inescapable trap. The oppression isn't just some vague social attitude. It is enforced through physical violence, spiritual degradation, and economic ruin.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, think about what it means to live in a world where a basic human necessity, something as fundamental as water, is weaponized to maintain dominance.
It's a terrifying thought.
The Thakur and the Sahu don't just own the infrastructure. They are actively using access to survival itself as a tool to keep an entire segment of the village population subjugated, exhausted, and living in a state of perpetual fear.
That systemic trap Jokhu describes, where physical and economic violence are guaranteed, it makes perfect sense when you actually look at the people holding that power.
It really does.
Let's look at what's happening over at the Thakurs' estate at that exact same moment. The narrative shifts to about 9 p.m. The village laborers, the people doing the back-breaking agricultural work all day, are already dead asleep from sheer exhaustion.
But not everyone is asleep.
No. At the Thakurs' imposing door, a group of privileged men are gathered around, wide awake, just idling the night away.
And the conversation happening in that gathering is highly revealing regarding their worldview. The text details these men sitting around boasting about what they call legal bravery.
Legal bravery. What does that even mean in this context?
Well, specifically, they are congratulating the Thakur for cleverly manipulating the justice system. He apparently managed to illegally obtain a copy of a confidential court document, entirely bypassing the bribes that the corrupt court officials were demanding from everyone else.
The cognitive dissonance there is staggering. How do they justify bragging about committing outright fraud and manipulating the legal system while simultaneously acting as the violent enforcers of a social code that treats Gangi, touching a well, as an unforgivable crime?
It is the absolute pinnacle of systemic hypocrisy. These men operate with the firm belief that they are entirely above the legal laws of the land.
Right. They see themselves as untouchable.
They view their ability to subvert the courts as a sign of high intelligence and power. Yet they view the oppressive social laws that cast boundaries that secure their dominance as absolute, divine, and unbreakable.
Rules for thee, but not for me.
Exactly. They openly celebrate their own corruption while aggressively punishing the sheer survival instincts of the marginalized people living right next to them.
While this arrogant boasting is happening at the door, another scene unfolds that adds a really interesting complication to the village dynamics. Two women from the Thakur's own household come out into the courtyard to draw water from the well.
This part is crucial.
What does the text reveal about their situation?
The gender dynamics introduced here are vital for understanding the full scope of the village's power structure. These women are not happy. They are complaining bitterly to one another.
What are they saying?
They discuss being treated essentially like slaves by their own husbands. Despite being exhausted from their daily chores, they were ordered to go out into the dark and fetch fresh water simply because the men suddenly decided they were thirsty.
While the men just sit around.
While the men sit around comfortably chatting, one of the women pointedly asks, "Are we slave girls?"
It sounds like a very real, very valid frustration. They even mention that if they did this amount of tireless work in a stranger's home, they would at least be compensated or thanked. But in their own home, their labor is completely invisible. No one even looks at them kindly.
This brings up a vital point of intersectionality within Premchand's narrative. These privileged women are facing genuine subjugation and sexism within the walls of their own homes. Their autonomy is severely restricted, and their physical labor is entirely taken for granted by the patriarchs of their caste. However, their struggles are running completely parallel to Gangi's. While they complain, Gangi is literally hiding in the dark shadows of a nearby tree.
That contrast is so sharp. The women at the well are frustrated by being treated like domestic servants, which is an oppressive reality. But Gangi is facing a literal life-or-death struggle just to access the water they are drawing so casually to serve their husband.
Exactly.
She is crouching in the dirt, terrified that if she is even spotted, she will be beaten to death. It perfectly illustrates how an individual can be oppressed in one specific context, but still wield immense life-altering privilege in another.
It highlights the complex, overlapping layers of the hierarchy. The women of the Thakurs household suffer deeply under the weight of patriarchy. But Gangi suffers under the combined, crushing weight of both patriarchy and the caste system.
It's a completely different level of survival.
Gangi would almost certainly trade her position for the relatively safe domestic frustrations of those complaining women in a heartbeat, if it meant securing the water that could save Jokhu's life.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the quiet waiting in the shadows eventually pays off. The complaining women finish drawing their water and head back inside. Eventually, the group of bragging men at the door disperse for the night.
The coast is finally clearing.
The Thakur goes inside his large house to sleep, and crucially, he pulls his heavy door shut. The courtyard is finally empty. The coast is as clear as it is ever going to be. Gangi takes a breath, and she steps out of the safety of the shadows.
The author builds the suspense in this sequence brilliantly. He elevates it far beyond a simple domestic chore. The source text actually compares her actions here to high myth and intense warfare.
I love that imagery.
It likens Gangi to a prince from folklore embarking on a quest to steal mythical nectar, or a brave, solitary soldier infiltrating a heavily guarded enemy fortress in the dead of night. Premchand makes it clear this isn't just a woman fetching water. This is a heroic, terrifying, life-threatening heist.
The stakes are astronomical for her. She knows the rules of the village perfectly well. If she makes a single mistake, if her foot scuffs the dirt too loudly, or if the bucket clinks against the stone and she is caught, there will be no mercy.
None at all.
There will be no trial, no forgiveness, no leniency. Just because her husband is dying, she will be made a violent example of.
The psychological weight she is carrying in this moment is immense. Every single muscular movement she makes is fraught with the potential for absolute disaster. The fear of discovery is a physical weight pressing down on her.
I want to paint the physical mechanics of this scene for you, the listener, because the source material is so gripping in its detail. Gangi silently prays to the gods, hoping for some kind of divine shield. She tiptoes out into the open space and cautiously steps up onto the raised platform of the Thakur's well.
She has to be completely silent.
Right. She takes her earthen pitcher, the gada, and she has to lower it down into the pitch-black shaft of the well. She does this with agonizing care, paying out the rope inch by inch, absolutely terrified of the sound it will make when it hits the surface of the water deep below.
And once that heavy earthen pitcher fills with water, the real physical exertion begins. Drawing water from a deep village well is not like turning on a tap. She now has to haul a significant amount of dead weight all the way back up a long, rough rope.
And she has to do it silently. But the text describes a massive shift in her physical state here. Once the pitcher is full, pure adrenaline takes over.
The source text actually compares her to a powerful athlete in this moment. It says she pulls that heavy, water-filled pitcher up with an unnatural, desperate speed.
Faster than normal.
It notes that even a strong, trained wrestler couldn't have pulled it up faster. It is that hysterical strength born out of pure, unadulterated survival instinct. She is fighting a silent war for her husband's life, pulling the rope hand over hand in the dark.
She gets it all the way to the top. She can see the water. She is literally inches away from victory. The mythical nectar she risked her life for is right there in her hands. She has infiltrated the fortress, evaded the guards, and secured the prize. All she has to do is lift it over the edge.
It is the absolute pinnacle of the heist. The tension is at its absolute highest because she has actually done the impossible.
But then, the turning point. In the dead silence of the night, just as Gangi's hands are about to firmly grasp the rim of the heavy bucket and place it safely on the solid stone edge of the well, a sound shatters the quiet.
Oh no.
The Thakur's heavy wooden door suddenly swings wide open.
The imagery Premchand uses to describe her perspective in this split second is absolutely chilling. To the terrified Gangi standing frozen on that platform in the dark, clutching a rough rope, that open doorway doesn't just look like a piece of wood swinging on hinges.
What does it look like to her?
The text specifically notes that to her, the dark void of that open door looks as terrifying as the gaping, hungry mouth of a tiger.
A tiger's mouth. That captures the pure instinctual dread perfectly. It isn't just a man waking up. It is an apex predator stepping out to devour her. And then, The Thakur's voice booms out into the quiet darkness. He peers out and shouts, "Who is there? Who is there?"
That shout acts as the explosive catalyst for the tragic climax. It instantly shatters the fragile silence she worked so hard to maintain, and it completely breaks her intense adrenaline-fueled focus.
The physical reaction described in the text is a testament to the paralyzing nature of absolute terror. Her brain doesn't even have time to process a plan. Her hands simply fail her.
She just loses her grip.
The muscles give out. They let go. The rough rope violently slips through her weakened fingers, and that heavy pitcher, completely full of the pristine, life-saving water, plummets all the way back down the long shaft of the well.
It's devastating.
It hits the bottom with a massive, echoing splash that completely destroys any lingering hope of a quiet, unnoticed escape.
All of that meticulous effort, all of that unnatural strength, the agonizingly slow lowering of the bucket, the bravery it took just to step out of the shadows, all of it is completely undone in a single devastating second of sheer terror.
Just gone.
This raises an important question for us to consider about the nature of this oppression. Despite her incredible courage and despite her absolute willingness to risk her own life for the man she loves, the systemic barriers built into her psychology are simply too high.
The conditioning runs too deep.
Exactly. The paralyzing fear instilled in her by a lifetime under that social hierarchy overrides even her deepest survival instincts.
She doesn't hesitate to see if he spotted her. She doesn't try to explain or beg. With the bucket gone and the massive splash echoing off the courtyard walls, Gangi abandons the well and flees for her life.
She has no other choice.
She runs frantically through the dark alleys of the village, sprinting back to the meager safety of her own home. She arrives completely out of breath, traumatized, and entirely empty-handed. She risked everything she had and gained absolutely nothing.
And the final image the source text leaves us with after this frantic escape is deeply devastating. It serves as the ultimate tragic resolution to her heroic quest.
It really is a gut punch. When Gangi finally walks back through her own doorway, trembling, defeated, and without the water, she looks over at Jokhu. His severe sickness and his all-consuming thirst have completely overpowered his judgment.
He just couldn't wait any longer.
He couldn't wait another second in that agony. Gangi stands there helplessly and watches as her desperately ill husband lifts that brass pot to his mouth and drinks the putrid, foul-smelling, disease-ridden water directly from their contaminated well.
The very tragedy she just risked her life in the dark to prevent is unfolding right in front of her eyes, and she is powerless to stop it. It is a crushing defeat.
It's so unfair.
But it isn't just a personal failure for Gangi and Jokhu. It is a sweeping, damning condemnation of the entire society that engineered the scenario, forcing them into a corner where drinking poison became their only available option.
So, what does this all mean? We've gone on this incredibly intense journey with Gangi tonight. We've felt the weight of her fear on that well platform, and we've witnessed this heartbreaking, unavoidable ending. Why is Munshi Premchand's story written decades ago so vital for us to unpack and understand today on the Simplified Summary channel?
It is vital because Premchand isn't merely documenting a sad historical anecdote. Thakurs well serves as a chilling, timeless dissection of how systemic barriers and social exclusion actually function on a human level.
It's about the mechanics of power.
Precisely. It demonstrates how these invisible, constructed walls force marginalized people into impossible, degrading situations. When a society artificially restricts access to the most basic needs of survival, like clean drinking water, it inevitably forces those at the bottom to risk their very lives just to secure the right to exist.
It actively strips away their dignity. It leaves people with no choice but to consume what is toxic, while the clean, life-sustaining resources sit hoarded and guarded just a few steps out of reach. It is a powerful, highly uncomfortable truth about human cruelty, and it's exactly the kind of challenging literature that makes these discussions so rewarding.
It really is.
I want to sincerely thank you, our listener, for joining us on this deep dive today on the Simplified Summary channel. If this exploration brought you a new perspective on Premchand's work, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button, drop a like on the video, and share your thoughts in the comments down below.
We'd love to know how Gangi's psychological journey resonated with you.
Your support is what allows us to keep analyzing these vital stories.
I would like to leave you with a final thought to ponder long after this deep dive ends. Think carefully about that final tragic image of Jokhu forcing himself to drink the poisoned water solely because the clean water was barricaded by prejudice and power.
It's an image that stays with you.
In our modern, supposedly advanced world today, look around you. Where might we still find Thakur's wells? What essential resources, whether it's medicine, housing, education, or even clean water itself, are abundantly available, yet remain artificially restricted from the people who need them the absolute most? Think about that.